Big news! Mojang have said that these are the last changes they'll be making to the copper drop and have confirmed they'll be moving on to the next one now. So what have they added in the final set of new features? Well, hello, I'm ABXToyCat and welcome back to another Minecraft update news video. This is a particularly important one because it represents the end of the copper drop, and so what have they added in it? Well, as always, this video comes to you in 5 parts, and the first part is going to focus on the new feature which has come to the Bedrock beta. It's also found in the Java Snapshot 25W33A, where we're focusing today on this update here because it's what's going to be the next Bedrock update and the one that contains all of the copper changes you've seen so far. But yeah, there is one last change coming to the copper golem, and it's an interaction with the iron golem. So to read this to you verbatim from the changelog, now iron golems will sometimes plant a decorative flower onto a nearby copper golem. I was just about to point out how ridiculously rare this is, but as you can see right here, we have amazingly got a situation where the copper golem and the iron golem are near enough that it's actually going to work, but my copper golem has decided to reject the iron golem and instead is going for a chest. So instead I'll show you this footage. I got off the same thing happening earlier because I was sure that wouldn't work. As you can see, the iron golem sees the copper golem and they kind of have a connection. They almost decide to give each other a flower, and then another copper golem comes in, gets blocked by another iron golem, but eventually he puts it directly on top of his head. This is such a cute little feature, and it's a nice interaction between two metal golems. As long as the copper golem's not too busy working, he can always appreciate and enjoy that, but if he is, I guess he has to work with his chests, and he can't be dealing with these flowers that his nice little strong protecting boyfriend can get him. So what's interesting here is the fact that this is the only new feature officially that is here for Java and Bedrock, but there's a lot of changes that they've also made, some of which are Java only, so we'll have to jump over there in a second, but lots of these tweaks are to do with copper because they want to fix this drop up. And so to go through these as quickly as possible, the big kind of flurry of changes are to do with copper things mostly. So copper chests, when you open them, the sound is now synced up between the chest and opening it at the animation and the noise. This is great. Also, that noise is only going to be audible from 12 blocks away. This seems a little small, but it's what Mojang thinks is a good idea, meaning you won't be hearing copper chests from super ridiculous distances. Also, it's worth noting that they've done a bunch of changes to the UI. The reason I'm in creative is so I can show you that if previously, if you were to search for copper blocks, for some reason, and this is true, the weathered block would show before the exposed block, which is not the correct order. It goes regular, slightly exposed, then weather, then fully oxidized, and now that is something they have fixed. It's a weird thing to fix, but it's important. And then they've also changed the, made it so that the icon that indicates the Marketplace Pass, the Marketplace Pass chevron, should be smaller, but here's the fun thing, we can't find that out because I'm here on the preview for PlayStation 4 where you can't access the store, and so you'll just have to trust me on that one. But they've made loads of these changes. I'll slide them across the screen right now because mostly it's about fixing this update so it's ready for release. And yes, part 5 of this video will talk about that release, but for now, let's go into part 3. Although first, a lot of people, were saying mean things about my 4 before. Do you think this 4 is any better? I think this is a beautiful 4. But yeah, to show you part 3, I think it's best we go to the Java edition for me. Wow, look what a good transition this is. Someone should pay the editor triple what they're getting right now. But anyway, what's important to note is that they have changed the shelf, and they've changed it on the Java edition, but they left this note about the Bedrock, so I'm effectively showing you next week's Bedrock shelf because they have changed it in response to community feedback, and this is exactly what they should be doing. I think there are cases where Mojang has a vision, and that vision is something we should let them cook on, and sometimes they have a vision and then they ruin their own vision, and it's like, whoa, we liked it better the way it was before. And so a great example of that was dyes or putting anything on a shelf. Last week, if you put these on the shelf, then not only could you see them from the back, but they would be stuck to the bottom for the most part and tiny. This is how a shelf would work in real life, but it's not how most item displays work and how most people want them to. And so now shelves are really good, not just for big items or even putting shelves on there. Look how good the shelves look on the shelf, by the way, but also it's great for banners, which means that if you want to make functioning slot machines, that was weird that I could do that. If you wanted to make functioning slot machines, you could totally do this again now because, woo, look at that. We can have full-sized banners taking up these shelves. This is much better, and even if it's not realistic, potentially, even if it's not, as Mojang originally intended, it's a better end situation for the players, and I really like this as a result. However, it's not the only change they made to Java. This next one's kind of crazy. You might not know this if you haven't played Java in a while, but as well as having simple and fancy, there's a brand new fabulous graphic setting. This is kind of fun in my opinion. It's great for lots of things, but you know what else? But the reason this fabulous setting exists is it's effectively going to be Java's version of Vibrant Visuals. They don't want to bring Vibrant Visuals to Java, because a lot of the technology doesn't necessarily make sense there right now, but instead the plan is to add all of the equivalent features until you get something that is kind of the same. And so that's why this section of the changelog is something I want to bring your attention to, because Minecraft have just said that they intend to bring these purple flashes that exist on Bedrock right now, the beautiful supernovas that exist in the distance that imply the end is in space. They're bringing them to Java Edition, and so interestingly, you can't see them from the main end island because Java has a unique fog, but if we go out these outer end islands and we make sure that our video is in fact set to the very highest, we should be able to find some of these flashes around here somewhere. I'm gonna find one. I'm just gonna wait. There it is. Look at that. That is a brand new end flash existing here on Java, and I've got a lot of thoughts. If you don't mind me sharing them, actually, if you mind me sharing them, I'm sorry, you clicked on the wrong video, apologies. Yeah, if you don't mind me sharing my thoughts here, what I think is really interesting is the fact that they do not look like their Bedrock counterparts anyway besides the vibe. I mean, it's, I guess we could say it's impressive because it's colored light existing in the sky, but if you look at it, it's way more pixely, and in a way that actually is much more charming in its own way. But yeah, this Vibrant Visuals exclusive feature has now come to Java. I would expect to see some more parts of the game kind of change like this, because otherwise there's a huge problem. Vibrant Visuals exists on Bedrock, and Mojang considers it to be the default way to play the game, which just can't be the case if you're playing a PlayStation 4 or on a particularly low-powered phone, but it's the default way to play the game, and eventually everyone will be playing it that way. That's interesting that I got an achievement in creative, but it's interesting that you know, like eventually everyone will be playing this way, and so their logic is, well, if Java players aren't playing that way, we're going to be building Minecraft for two platforms again. So much of their focus is on making sure that there is two versions of Minecraft, but that new features are added to them both at the same time. This is why it's a nightmare to work on combat. This is why it's a nightmare to add certain features, even if they work perfectly on Java or perfectly on Bedrock, and this is why it's such an interesting thing to see that they're bringing Vibrant Visuals slowly but surely to Java, starting with this. And I've got to say, I don't love it on the surface, but I think it's much more Minecrafty on Java, which is interesting, right? Anyway, yeah, with that said, I think this is a fun little feature, but it represents just the fourth part of this video, and so we're going to have to come back to Bedrock to go into the final section, because yes, this is a sign that the copper drop is finished. 1.21.100, or if you're on Java, 1.21.9 or whatever, the update is now finished, as we can clearly read from this line on the changelog. All features for our third game drop of 2025 are now in testing, and we'll start working on our next game drop, which we are excited to tell you about soon. This is huge for three reasons, and I'll try to go through them as briefly as possible. The first is that it confirms our theory the next drop is worked on immediately after the previous one. This has been suspected for a while, especially when we got the copper drop, despite Mojang officially being on a holiday, but now it has been confirmed, which is great, and that also lets us know about a release date, because yes, I predicted in Q&A Saturday, I'd recommend checking it out if you want to learn more, but the 16th was my prediction for the release date, based on the fact that they probably have two more betas after that Saturday. This is the first one. I suspect we'll still see another, and then that would mean 3 weeks after is the 16th, and so if you're expecting to see this update come out in September, it's almost certain now, unless bug fixing takes more than 2 to 3 weeks, which is very, very unlikely, given that they've just said they are completely done with features, and they already added a bunch of them. But even more interesting is the fact that they are excited to tell us about it soon, which seems a lot like a Minecraft Live hint. This is something I wrote down in my notes, and I thought, yeah, it's a pretty strong hint by itself, and then Minecraft posted this, confirming they're looking for things to show off in Minecraft Live's pre-show, and if they're putting together the pre-show, I think that means they're planning Minecraft Live probably as soon as September, which means that I would suspect, based on how last year's, or how the first Minecraft Live this year went, where they showed us the update that was just coming out, the Spring to Life drop, then they showed us the Summer drop with the Vibrant Visuals and the Ghast, and so now there is going to be perhaps the same. We're going to learn about the Copper drop and its official name, and then we're going going to see what Drop 4 2025 has planned. I do have to say at this point, there are real big questions about, okay, they're very clearly calling it a drop. I think a lot of people had their hopes up for 1.22, so is that going to happen? Probably not, but what is the plan for this last drop of the year? Is it going to be a big one? Is it going to tie in some of these larger changes they've been working on the background, you know, the long-term initiatives? There is a lot to talk about and think about here, but for now, we're going to have to wait for more announcements from Minecraft on the live, but I would say that 3 to 4 weeks is quite likely because they're going to be trying to time it around the copper drop. So yeah, speaking of that copper drop, by the way, we've seen so many copper features come into this that maybe you've forgotten about them, given that it's been a very fast previous cycle, but I think it'd be fun to do a deep dive into every feature we have so far. Usually my snapshots and the update out, you know, all feature guide videos have to be tight and punctual and we have to just explain things and move on, but let's do a real deep dive to give actual feedback on everything in the copper drop. So we'll do one of those in the next couple of days, and also to summarize everything you learned about today, there is one last feature, and it's iron golems planting things on copper golems. They made a bunch of copper fixes, sound, UI, and everything else. It's a big changelog, basically all bug fixes. They made shelves better, and they will do so shortly on Bedrock. They're adding vibrant visuals to Java, even in the default game, which then has some interesting implications for how Bedrock will work. And finally, the release date has to be coming soon, based on the fact that they're finished besides those bug fixes. And so that means that next week you can expect a new beta preview snapshot, but I wouldn't expect to see anything massive unless there is some drastic change. But with that said, I hope you all enjoyed this video, because I'll see you tomorrow. Or I guess you'll hear me tomorrow, which is kind of the same thing, it's just different senses. Anyway, goodbye.